Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Yeah, okay, excellent. So we looked in the last year at the first suggestion of the Gemara that the machlokas is when nishbru may erev Yom Tov, but if it's nishba b'Yom Tov or b'Shabbos, then it's somehow fixed that it's muchen from the start of Shabbos, and therefore it wouldn't become Muktza. This seems to be a tzad, as we discussed, that the muchen status is chal, is sort of halachically determined by the start of Shabbos, and therefore the Havamim of the Gemara was that the whole machlokus is where it breaks before Shabbos, but once Shabbos starts as a keli, as long as it's got some function, even though it's not omed for that function, that would be sufficient. Then on that, Mosif Rav Zutroi. So Rav Zutroi challenges that Havamim of the Gemara, and he says that we find that Masikim b'Kelim, ve'in Masikim b'Shivrei Kelim. So he says, when did these Kelim break? If they broke on Erev Yom Tov, then they're just eitzim. They're just words. Eitzim you can burn on Yom Tov. Why shouldn't you be able to burn them on Yom Tov? Elamai, they broke on Yom Tov itself, and you see the machlokus is on Yom Tov itself. That's Rav Zutroi or Mar Zutra's comes in the Gis's question. So what exactly is the svara of the Gemara that eitzim that broke on Kelim that broke on Erev Yom Tov are mutter, can be burnt? So the Gemara says because they are eitzim ba'alman, they're just eitzim. So Rashi says on that, eitzim ba'alman in who? Doma esmo la sakakaima, that from the start of Shabbos, they were only made for hasaka. That's what Rashi says. The Rambam, which I put in the WhatsApp group, the Rambam in Hilchos Yom Tov, Halacha Beis, Halacha Yud Beis, says Masikin b'Kelim Shleimim, the second line in the Rambam, Oy b'Kelim Shenishbu me'erev Yom Tov. You can burn Kelim Shleimim or Kelim that broke on Erev Yom Tov, Shari Huchanu l'melacha acheres mib'erev, because they were muchen for another melacha previously. So what does the Rambam mean? What do we think this Rambam means? They were muchen for another halacha previously. There again, so Kelim that nishbru on Erev Yom Tov, why can you burn them on Yom Tov? So Rashi says because by the time Yom Tov came in, they were just a block of wood. They were no longer keli, so they were just a block of wood, and wood can be burnt on Yom Tov. The Rambam says because they were nishba on Erev Yom Tov, and therefore, the Rambam says because they were muchen for melacha acheres, they were muchen for something else when Yom Tov came in.
They move on. Melacha acheres is the burning.
What does melacha acheres mean? The muchen, he says you're allowed to burn them because the muchen melacha acheres. Right, so muchen doesn't mean muchen for burning. Muchen means for melacha acheres, another melacha.
Other use, and use as opposed to using it as your pot is to use it to burn.
No, again, the Rambam says Kelim Masikim b'Kelim Shleimim b'Kelim Shenishbu me'erev Yom Tov shehuchnu melacha acheres mib'erev. You say melacha acheres means gufa for hasaka.
Yeah.
Say that the soccer is not a melachot.
Well, hasaka is a use of things. So a use of things. Yeah.
Maybe he's not staying on Kelim Shleimim. And the broken doesn't even need to give a reason.
Right, that could be some, yeah. Okay, so I agree with you, but let me just spell out your point in two stages. My understanding is that melacha acheres means, if the Rambam wanted to say the shari huchanu la'asaka, he would have said shari huchanu la'asaka me. To me, that seems an unclear language. So he means they're muchen for manal the melacha. So what Shimi really just said was a couple of stages ahead of where I initially got up to. So I read the Rambam. The Rambam says that they're muchen for melachot acheres. So to me, that sounded quite unlike Rashi initially. Rashi says the reason they're allowed is because they're muchen lahasaka. The Rambam says the reason they're allowed is that they're muchen melachot acheres. I even wondered if there's a halachic machlokas between Rashi and the Rambam. I don't know. I mean, what would Rashi say about Kelim Shleimim? Are you allowed to burn Kelim Shleimim? Is a Kli Sholim Muchan for Hasaka? I don't know.
Just seems to give some logic of why you can.
Yeah, he says because they're Muchan for Hasaka. So it's just fireworks.
Maybe that's that law. It's actually became beyond the
Yeah. Yes.
With Kelim.
Yes. So when it comes to Kelim, Rashi would agree it's mutter. Why? Because it's Muchan Masaka, or because it's automatic only Hasaka because it's not Muktza?
Because we're in the past.
So it's not Muchan for Hasaka, it's just not Muktza, and therefore you could use it.
But that's because broken things and stickless things in general are Muktza. But if it's Muchan al Saka, then it's like
No, again, so, 1 second. So you're going back to Shivrei Kelim. I'm just talking about Kelim themselves. Would Rashi agree with the Rambam's line of why it's mutter?
Rashi only feels the need to say al Saka because on broken things like
Right.
twigs and stones have a minute you can't use it like other
Right.
stones on Shabbat.
But on Shivrei Kelim, you don't have to come on to that reason because it's Muchan Atilta, like Rashi says.
Yeah, because
Right. But is it also Muchan Hasaka?
in Rashi it doesn't need to be.
It's quite the fire.
He's never so far. They're not Muktza, but it's fine.
So it's not that they're Muchan Hasaka, they're Muchan for other things, and then you could put them into the fire also. Right. So with Kelim Shleimim, Rashi and the Rambam seem to be in agreement. And with Shivrei Kelim, I don't know, is Rashi and the Rambam saying the same reason? The Rambam seems to say because they're Muchan Melachot Acheres, and Rashi says because they're Muchan LaHasaka.
So there may be things that are so broken that they aren't, they don't have another melachot that they could do, that Rashi would seem to say you can burn, and the Rambam would say no.
Well, I don't know, if they're so broken, then maybe the Rambam would agree that now they've just become firewood, and therefore they're Muchan LaHasaka. So in other words, let me just try and understand what I'm pointing out over here. I'm asking Kasha on the Rambam. The Gemara says that Kelim Shleimim or Mutter, there I think we can live with the language of the Rambam. Kelim Shleimim or Mutter, because the Muchan LaHasaka Acheres. Sorry, Muchan LaMelachot Acheres. And that then the Rashi and the Rambam would be the same about Kelim Shleimim. But Shivrei Kelim, Rashi seems to say, which is the simplest understanding of the Gemara, that they've gone back to being firewood. Well, firewood is obviously mutter to Hasaka on Eri Yom Tov. The Rambam seems to be saying that these are Shivrei Kelim, which still have ishtamshus of some sorts, and therefore they're also mutter because they're muchan la melachot acheres. So is the Rambam creating a middle level that's different to Rashi's middle level? In Rashi, there are just two classes. There's Keli Muchan, which is not Muktza because it's Muchan and Melacha, and therefore it's mutter the tiltal, and therefore it's also you can move it to burn. And then there's Shivrei Kelim, which has effectively just become firewood. So firewood, of course, is mutter. And the Rambam is saying there's a middle level of Kelim, Shivrei Kelim, which are Muchan still Melachot Acheres.
Wouldn't they be considered Kelim just a different type?
Yeah, the Rashi just maybe still classifies those as Kelim.
Right.
Kelim are you things that aren't Kelim. If they're Kli, then they aren't Mitzvah. You can move them, and therefore they're okay. And if they have gone to such a level that they're not Kli, then they're not.
So the Rambam's Shivrei Kelim maybe means Shivrei Kelim that on the Tolim Mimayim because they're also in Melacha. Right. So where does the Rambam paskin the din of completely Shivrei Kelim, completely broken Kelim?
The Ram would have to, it goes in, the Ram would have to spell that out if he's talking about an attempt for that. It's specifically Kelim, because we know even the Gemara makes a distinction between the Mishna makes a Kelim between Kelim that are so broken they can't be used for anything, and Kelim that are broken but can still be used for something. But the Rambam wants to only say it in one of those two cases. So
That's why he's.
Right.
Yeah,
So the Rambam is learning that. So when we get to the memo that Malzutra quotes, it says Masikim b'Kelim, ve'in Masikim b'Shivrei Kelim, and we know that it carries on because we've got the Gemara earlier in Kaf Tasma Medalef, and the Gemara really that carries on later. That there is an opinion that's matter even with Shivrei Kelim. That Masikim b'Shivrei Kelim. So the Rashi, the translation of the Mishnah, is that Masikim b'Shivrei Kelim because they're eitzim ba'alma, they're just firewood. And comes the Rambam Masikim b'Shivrei Kelim means Kelim which are the half level of broken. In other words, they're oisin me'in melacha. And the Rambam never bothers to tell us the din of completely smashed up Kelim, maybe because he thought that was obvious, because that's just firewood. Why shouldn't you be able to light with it? Are you is everyone with me? Anyone with me?
is that what you
Yeah.
You have about the Egel Dim and the key prophet.
Yeah, that's really Gemara later. Yeah. Yeah.
Ram himself, when he goes on, I mean, in that, I don't know when we look into the architect.
Right.
But he, in the Yudbet, he continues with that.
Yeah. Yes.
So if he's saying it's exactly the same as the
Right.
part of that which have no other, they're definitely not Kelim. So he's implying that even the unusable bit,
Right.
which have been broken before you, would be
Right.
could be used for Hasakah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I mean?
I don't know. I do. Yeah. But he does call that Kiyotzapo, which is not really Kiyotzapo because the Klippei Agozim are completely useless. They're just firewords. And the Shivrei Kelim is not completely useless because it's Melach Acharis. It's still got use. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So just to summarize, so we're not completely confused. The Rambam says Kelim themselves you can light on Shabbos because they're not Muktza. They've got another. They're muchen for another melacha for their main melacha. Melach Acheres means they're muchen for their main melacha. I think that's not controversial. Then the Rambam says Shivrei Kelim you can also burn on Shabbos because they're also muchen Melach Acheres. In that case, he's not talking about the Shivrei Kelim that our Gemara is talking about, because our Gemara is talking about completely smashed up Kelim, and they're muchen, not they're mutter to use, not because they're muchen Melach Acheres, but because they're just firewood. And that the Rambam doesn't bother saying because that's obvious, let's say. And he's talking about the mid-level Shivrei Kelim, and his point really is just a repeat of really another halacha, which is when he paskins the Mishnah, that's the Rambam in Perik Tafhei of Chil Shabbos halacha Yud Beis, where he says that Shivrei Kelim can be used. So he says they're muchen melach acheres, and that they can be used for hasaka. But then he goes on and says Kiyotzabahen, which I hadn't thought about. Paul points out, which says similar to that, Agozim can be used, which is real firewood. So I'm not sure. It remains in my mind a little bit of a messy Rambam. Where's the different nusach?
No, the Rambam quotes a different an alternative.
Yeah, good. But the first halacha he says is cool halacha. Yeah.
Maybe like what I was saying before was that when the Rambam gives the reason, with the area, he's only talking about Kelim Shleiman. He only needs to give a reason for those because for Shivrei Kelim, it's not nylon. If it was already broke, the whole issue is nylon.
Yeah.
And then if it was broken before,
Yeah.
so he doesn't even have to give.
I hear that. It's a bit of a kvetch in the Lashon Rambam.
Yeah, but so is saying that the Kimta the Rambam is that this halacha the Rambam is actually only talking about Kelim if they.
No, again, it's a good reading the Rambam. We don't know why the Rambam is saying that, but then we've read the Rambam again. The simplest reading of the Rambam is that he's saying by Shivrei Kelim, the reason they're allowed to move is because they have a melacha, they have a function. In which case, he's talking about Shivrei Kelim that have a function. It's a good reading in the language of the Rambam. It's just funny why the Rambam says it. In Shimi's reading, really all he's going on is Kelim Shleimim of another function, and he's including Shivrei Kelim for have a completely different reason, because the real reason why you can move Shivrei Kelim is because they're firewood. So yeah.
This whole
I agree. The continuation is difficult in my reading. But I'm just saying I prefer to leave the Rambam unresolved rather than I think your reading is a poor reading. that on Shivrei Kelim, the reason you're allowed to move it is because they're firewood, and the Rambam says the reason you're allowed to move it is because they're melacha. Okay, so I don't want to belabor the point, but I don't know, the Rambam summarizes Gemara in less than his usual clear manner. He's obviously seems to be reading the Gemara differently to us. He seems to understand in the Maskana that the better reading of the Brisa is that the Shivrei Kelim refer to are Kelim that have a use rather than completely useless Shivrei Kelim. And the reason he reads it like that maybe is because he held that completely broken Shivrei Kelim is obvious. It's just firewood. When the Gemara says Eitzim Ba'alma, the Rambam may understand that's too good of shot. In other words, if they're Eitzim Ba'alma, then it's not a good reading of the Brisa. Why would the Brisa or the Memra, the Halachic Memra, tell me they don't have Eitzim Ba'alma? They're just Eitzim Ba'alma. What are they? So the Rambam prefers to learn that when it mentions Shivrei Kelim, it means useful Shivrei Kelim, and these useful Shivrei Kelim can be used on Shabbos because they have another use. I don't know. That's the best. That's the best of this. Like you come out of the Rambam, but it's a little bit of a shver Rambam. Okay, the Gemara then goes on and says, "Elo itzma hachi itzma." Okay, so the Gemara either way moves away from all of this, and in the Maskana, the machlokus is Kelim shenishbru b'Shabbos, and we have a nice sort of conceptual machlokus. One opinion says they're muchen. They were a keli. It's true they're no longer a keli, but they're still muchen to be used as firewood. Another opinion says it's no lad. Before Shabbos, they were not made for firewood, and now that Shabbos has come in, and before Shabbos and on Shabbos before they broke, they were not made for firewood, and now that Shabbos has come in, they are made for hasaka, and that's nolad. That's a new pishamshus for which they're made. So what's pshat in the Tanakama who says that it's mutter because they're muchen? What does he do with the problem that they are nolad? How does he resolve the problem that this is nolad? So I think this is a machlokas, Rashi and Tosfos, and then in the handout sheets I said Ayin Rashi and Ayin Tosfos. That's because I think there's a machlokas between them as to what the Tanakama holds. Again, the opinion that is the Rabbi Yehuda, who says that they have to be doing me'ein melachton. I'm sorry, I summarized the Gemara poorly. I got myself into firewood again. I'm sorry, I had to hang over the Gemara now. I've got myself confused. So let me step back and give the correct summary of the Gemara. We're back to the Mishna. Nothing to do with firewood. The Mishna says that a keli which breaks on Shabbos, but now has a new use. So it was a areva, which was used as a bowl, and now it becomes a lid. So the Tanakama holds mutter because before it was a keli, a usable keli, a bowl, and now it's usable keli, a lid, and therefore it's muchen. Rabbi Yehuda says no, it's nolad because it's got a new use that's come into existence, which is being used as a lid. The old use of it being a bowl has gone. A new use has come into existence of it being a lid. That's nolad, and therefore it's muktza. I'm sorry, that's correct summary of the Gemara. That's the maskana of the Gemara, that on Shabbos, if it goes from being a bowl to being a lid, the Tanakama says muchen. The Rabbi Yehuda says nolad. What does the Tanakama? What's pshat in the Tanakama? Why is he not worried about nolad? Why does he disagree with Rabbi Yehuda, who says that it's nolad? So I think the answer is a machlokas Rashi and Tosfos, because Tosfos in on the Gemara says Tosfos Verova. So this is going on the Gemara later with the discussion about feeding Rishus Rabbim and so on. So Tosfos says Bahani Denishbru Be'er Shabbos Ka'oma. The whole machlokas is about the Nishbru Be'er Shabbos, but if they Nishbru B'Shabbos, Hari Rava holds Islay Muktza of a Kolshke Nolad. Rava holds a Muktza and Kalachoma Nolad. So Tosfos seems to be saying that if something breaks on Shabbos, and we know that Rava holds a Nolad, then he definitely would asa. So Tosfos is taking as a given that if you hold of Nolad, you would definitely asa. In other words, the Tanakama who is Mati, Shat in the Tanakama is Mati because he doesn't hold of Nolad. So this concept of nolad, that's something which a new Ishtamshus, and let me just try and make this clear. Everyone agrees that if you have nolad mamish, that's also on Shabbos. That's not a nidden. If you have something that literally pops into existence, and in no way was existent before that, that's definitely also. Over here, we're talking about something more subtle. The object existed before Shabbos. However, a new functionality comes into existence on Shabbos. The Tanna Kama is not worried about that. Why is he not worried about it being a new functionality? Well, one way of answering the question is because he doesn't hold of nolads. He doesn't hold that new functionality is he doesn't hold of nolads. He doesn't utter that level of birth of something coming into existence. And I think that's how Tosfos learns, because Tosfos says the following logic. He says, Rava with Osa if this happened on Shabbos, because I have a raya from a Gemara in Kufman based on the base that Rava holds of nolad. Translation, if Rava holds of nolad, Rava can't hold that it's mutter if it comes into existence if this Tishtamshus came into existence on Shabbos. So Tosfos says the Tanna Kama doesn't hold of nolad, and Rabbi Yehuda does hold of nolad. That's how he summarizes the Gemara. Rashi, I think, is a different summary of the Gemara, because if you look in the language of Rashi, in Diva Maschil Masov Muchenhu, Rashi says, "Kiven deroi l'shum melacha," since it's roi for some melacha, therefore it's muchen. Or man sov noilad hava, dem esmel lav lahai melacha hava koi hilchos me'in melacha be'inon. So it sounds like in Rashi that since it's roi l'shum melacha, therefore it's he's not worried about the Rabbi Yehuda who holds of nolad. So Rashi seems to be saying, even if you hold of the concept of nolad, nonetheless this is not called nolad over here because there's nothing that's come into existence. Before it's roy melacha, now it's roy melacha. That's not called nolad at all. So this is, I think, I appreciate the line between the two is quite subtle, but I think there's the summary of the difference is that Tosfos says that it's dependent on whether you hold of nolad or not, whether you hold like the Tanna Kama Rabbi Yehuda, and Rashi seems to say even if you do hold of nolad, the Tanna Kama holds this isn't nolad because it was muchen before and it's muchen afterwards. The Biur Halacha, the Shatsin, which I put in the source sheet, makes this is not my own Tikkun Rashi. He makes this Tikkun Rashi, and he says that the nafkamina would be whether it's muchen on Yom Tov, because there is, again, without us trying to learn the whole of Shas in one go, on Yom Tov we pasken like Rabbi Yehuda that there is a din of nolad, and therefore, according to the Mishna argues, the Shatzian argues that according to Tosfos' understanding, everyone would agree that on Yom Tov Shivrei Kelim would be Osa, because it's nolad. The whole machlok is in Shabbos whether we hold of nolad or don't hold of nolad. But in Yom Tov, where I shouldn't have said everyone holds, but where we paskin that we do hold of nolad, the keli would be osa. Whereas according to Rashi, you can say no, on Yom Tov we hold of nolad, but nonetheless this isn't nolad because it's muchen, because it had the shtamshus, all along. Shift of Ishtamshus from one sort of use to another sort of use is not called nolad. Nolad is where new Ishtamshus comes to existence, not where it always has an Ishtamshus. So that's a summary, really. I've just given you a summary, really, of a sort of longish piece from the Shatzian, and that's the Shatzian's argument. So again, just to summarize, Tosfos seems to say that if you hold a nolad, you would definitely have to paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. Rashi seems, that's what he says in Rava. In others, the machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Tanna Kama is, do we hold of nolad? This type of nolad of new functionality coming into existence. And Rashi seems to say, no, even if you hold of nolad, the Tanna Kama is meikal, because he says it's not a new functionality. It was functional, and it still is functional. That's not called nolad. And the nafkamina would be on Yom Tov, where everyone agrees that we're more machmir on nolad. According to Rashi, you could still be meikal with Shivrei Kelim. According to Tosfos, no. In that case, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, we paskin like the more chamor shita in nolad. And therefore, this would be also that's basically the Shatzian's shtickle Torah. If you have a look inside, yeah.
According to the Tosfos, why and in the Tanna Kama view, why does it need to be qualified then with in melacha? Why can't you just say you can just use it once it's proven?
Because if it has no use, then it's not omed, then it's not muchen. Not because of nolad, because it's not muchen, because it doesn't have ishtamshus. Here has ishtamshus. It's just a different sort of ishtamshus that I had previously. Beforehand it was a kli kibble, now it's a lid. Beforehand it was a bowl, and now it's a lid. So Tanakh comes and says, look, it's got ishtamshus. It's not Muktza. The ishtamshus, either I don't hold a nolad, Tosus, or I hold a nolad, but this isn't nolad because it was it originally had ishtamshus, and now it's got ishtamshus. It's not called nolad. Nothing new has come into the world, and therefore that would be mutter. Yeah.
According to Rashi, what would be a case where even Tanakh would say, okay, that is a nolad of a new ishtamshus?
Only where something had no ishtamshus at all and a new ishtamshus comes into existence. But if it has,
it grows. If it grows something new, then that's the other nolad that everyone agrees on.
That's where something new comes into existence. But if it comes into, if it was always there but a new ishtamshus came, for example, drying things and things like that, then everyone would agree that that's nolad. Drying fruit that's not ready to, not dried yet, or clothing that's wet or something like that. These sorts of scenarios, maybe that's sort of case where it doesn't have ishtamshus at all. Could be an issue of nolad, yeah. Could be an issue of lack of muchen, and it could be that's nolad itself, yeah.
And what is this root like issue of nolad?
I don't possibly. I only vaguely know. Possibly, Tosa says he holds a muktza and kal v'chomer nolad. In Mitzvah Hashem, when we finish the sugi, we'll probably move to Beitza. We'll learn the first couple of dafim of Beitza. What emerges from Beitza is that there's a core heart of Muktza which maybe has deraisa origins, which is perhaps something which wasn't muchen at all or something like that, and then you have things which are muchen but not muchen enough. So nolad may emerge from that sugi there. It may be nolad may simply be a deeper form of non-muchen that that the whole object or the whole ishtamshus came into existence. That may be what nolad means, but I don't really know exactly. In a sense, I'm just piggybacking on a point that the Shatian makes. Nolad to me, and the Rishonim say this, just seems to be an extreme form of not muchen. It's not that you had an object there and it wasn't muchen, so you didn't have the object there, or you had the object there and had no functionality, and the new functionality came into existence. But in that case, it's just not it's an extreme version of not muchen. Yeah. Okay. So that's really all I want to say on this stage of the Gemara. I guess since we've got 2 minutes, I'll just make one very short ta'ara, and just as a light touch ta'ara, and then we'll finish for today. Masikin, we'll move on to the next stage of the Gemara. Tanichad masikin b'kelim, ve'in masikin Shivrei kelim, etc. How can you be masik b'kelim? How can you burn a kelim on Shabbos, in Yom Tov? Surely this is over the melacha of stiras kelim. So you're being soiser kelim. There's a melacha of binyan and stira on Shabbos. You're not allowed to build and you're not allowed to destroy. So Adam is making a fine point, and I'll come to it in a second. But let's just lay out the question. You're not allowed to be bone and sois on Shabbos, right? That's halacha. Does binyan and stira apply to kelim or not? That's my first question for those who have been here for a while. What's the safe answer to give? Machlokes, yeah. So we saw machlokes Rishonim whether yesh binyan b'kelim or im binyan b'kelim. We learned that sukkah b'iyam, so we're not going to go through it again. So if im binyan b'kelim, we've got nothing to talk about over here. If im binyan b'kelim and stira b'kelim, there's no conversation to be had. But if yesh binyan b'kelim and yesh stira b'kelim, how can you burn kelim on Yom Tov? Surely you're doing stira b'kelim. I mean, you're dismantling the structure. Binyan is a difficult concept. We spent quite a bit of time trying to learn the idea of binyan. But basically, all binyan is that you have a construction, right? So a keli is a type of construction. A bowl has parts which are constructed in a manner in which it has functionality. Construction with functionality. That's the essence of binyan. Stira is removing the construction and the functionality. Well, when you burn a keli, you've broken it into its pieces, into its ashes, its carbon molecules. You've broken the structure of the keli and thus removed its functionality. If you hold yesh binyan and yesh stira b'kelim, this would be a classic example of stira. So I'll give Adam the first comment on that, which is right. So we're not talking about derisas over here, because only Sosa al Manas Livnos is Deraisa, okay, but still there's Nissa Drabonon. So how can you burn a Keli on Yom Tov? Surely you're being over this Drabonon of Binyan and Shiur Kelim.
Did we not say all that almanats were also, it didn't really just mean almanat, but it meant you were getting, it was for a positive purpose, and I suppose to get the heat from the fire, if you're not saying that's getting a positive.
Okay, so that would also maybe Almanas is only an example of a positive purpose, and this would be enough of a positive purpose, in which case it would be Deraisa. Yeah.
We're now using it for firewood, and you're using it, you haven't.
But in using it, that's dismantling the structure. The Shiur that would be Shiur. True, but that's when it's just a lump of firewood. When it's a Kedi, you're removing, you're dismantling the structure of a Kedi, which is Sosa. Yeah. So that is Shiur. So there's a number that again, I'm just doing this as a side point. It's really off subject from Muktza, which is what we're learning. It's just a bit of chaburah and melacha. And one answer could be Eichel Nefesh. Eichel Nefesh is Meichel. The same way as Eichel Nefesh allows you to burn a fire, similarly Eichel Nefesh would allow you to burn this. That would get us into another sugya about whether Eichel Nefesh is mati all melachas or only some melachas. But that's one possible answer. Maybe the whole question is a joke from the start. It's mutter for Eichel Nefesh. And another answer maybe would be that destroying something isn't such that there's nothing left. Isn't called Shiur. It's disappearing. It's Shiur is where you break something down to its component parts. Here, there's nothing left. The posting, by the way, talk about what happens. Are you allowed to burn a book on Shabbos on Yom Tov? I'm sorry. So there's a malacha called Mochik. You're not allowed to be close to Mochik. So if you have a book that you don't want, you don't like the book, and you think it'll make useful firewood, some books are like that. Then again, or newspaper, right? People, if you go to a fire in a farmhouse or something, I'm no expert on fires, but I've been there sometimes, but they use newspapers to thank it. So would that be mochik? Would that be mutter on Yom Tov or not? So I mentioned this as an aside. We really learning Hilchas Muktza, not Hilchas mochik and Hilchas Sosa, but probably wouldn't be Deraisa, but maybe yeah, because it's constructive, but probably it's not Almanas Livdoi. It depends on Yesh Binyan and Yesh Shiur Kelim, and maybe the answer is we're making a mistake because mochik and Sosa is when mochik is removing writing, Sosa is dismantling something. This isn't called removing writing or dismantling; it's destroying the whole thing, and maybe it wouldn't fit onto the category of the malacha. Maybe that's exactly what mavir is. There's a malacha called mavir. Mavir means burning something. That's the name of the malacha. The malacha is not burning and sosa, it's mavir, and mavir is mutter for eichel nefesh. So it could be the whole question is a sort of category mistake. Okay, we'll stop there. Yes, Paul. Yes. Yeah, good. Okay, but yeah. Yeah. Okay.